Hello, my name is Day. I know there aren't many people out there who believe the current raid tier Asphodalos the third Circle Savage to be the worst one out of all four. There are two things this video will dive into, which is the mechanic design and the player execution. I personally believe there are two main reasons that makes the bad fight even worse. I've put in over 50 hours plus progging and recleared P3S, and this video concludes my experience on a third party finder and opinion on a fight. Let's get started. First things off, we have a tank buster where tether two random players. These tethers have to be picked up by both tanks and mitigate through weight. An interesting thing to note is that this is the only tank buster out of all four Asphodalos Savage raids that's tethered instead of directly targeted into your main tank. The issue with this mechanic is that two tanks have to pick up the tether from the group, but when a boss or player is mispositioned, it will make the tether very hard to be picked up by the tank. When I was progging P3S, there were multiple times the tank couldn't pick up the tether due to the party members standing right fucking under the boss. I honestly don't get why can't they just keep it like normal mode where it targets the two tanks, and arguably a bad mechanic design for this boss. Moving on, you have Darken Fire next, which is easily resolved when 8 players assign spots to place down the fire, and move to the marker according to your given number. Most of the party finder group don't really have issues with just placing down the Darken Fire thing, nor going through the right spot. All the problem coming from one word. That's right, greed. Look, I don't want to be rude, but you motherfuckers out there using ACT trying to parse and keep hitting the boss, instead of putting like 2 fucking GCD onto the Darken Fire. Your parse ain't going nowhere when your whole fucking party dies. As simple as that. It's not a bad mechanic design. It's easily executable. Next, we move on to the ad phase. This is one of the 4 raids now that has an ad phase, and no one like ads. Why? Cause what the fuck, I gotta hit ads? It doesn't even count on the ACT. Well yes, that's a reason, but really, it gets chaotic when those birds start dashing, and you have people getting clipped and dying from it. Then you won't have enough DPS to kill off 4 birds, and you wipe. To me, it's an alright mechanic, and it isn't that bad. It's just when people stand too close and clip each other with those birds. It's like those mechanics where if you have a person dying, it snowballs and more people will die from it. Then we move on to the worst thing ever in the fight. That's right, the Glower Plume. Either the Shiva pattern or the big ass AoE pattern into spread or stack. It's the worst thing ever. People getting clipped by Shiva pattern or big AoE, then die from stack or spread is honestly a very common thing. You'd be thinking, what the hell are these people doing? Can't you dodge Shiva or big AoE? The answer is no, people are just that bad on a party finder. Either that or they aren't even paying attention. Then you go into the next mech, Snowball, and you wipe. The mechanic isn't that hard to execute. It's honestly pretty straightforward, but the problem is on the players. A lot of the party finder groups I joined don't even have assigned spread position. So when it comes to spread, it's completely YOLO. And guess what? Yes, you die because of clipping. Again, the mechanic is okay, the player's execution is just terrible. On the side note, I've seen the JP data center using macro to assign the spread spots, which is what Aether needs to be doing, instead of YOLO and then wipe. Next mechanic is Fountain of Fire, FOF for short. This one seems to be okay for the most part when it comes to party finder, where you bait the puddle and drag the bird across the boss. Sometimes you'll have people drag the bird to the wrong spot and end up clipping other people, and they die from it. It's not common to have a clear party wipe on this mechanic, though things do get a bit chaotic during it. Then we'll move on to the Flame of Asphodalos, FOA for short. Again, spread or stack is in the first part of this. Might be an issue if people YOLO the spread. Hey, a real quick question, do you like pizza? I think the answer is yes, everyone likes pizza. But not the one here when it kills you. I've run so many P3S on Party Finder, and even till today, reclear is still a fucking joke when people decide to eat pizza and die to a stack or spread. Like, come the fuck on, you have so much time to move away from those slices. Then you see people standing there and get hit from it. Like, what the fuck, bro? Then we have Dark Nado and Knockback, followed with Stack or Spread. Again, YOLO spread, but other than that, it's pretty much okay. The mechanic is challenging, but I believe is well designed. Just players YOLO the spread or eat pizza. They are responsible for their own death and wiping the party. The last actual mechanic for us to talk about is the death toll. It's not a hard mechanic, and people don't usually wipe here on Party Finder in my experience. Occasionally, there will be a few deaths from Life's Agony, aka the raid wipe at the end. At this point, everyone should be topped off by the healers. There will be time you don't have an Astral or no healer LB3. The common sense is to stay close and have your healer heal you back to full health. Death happens here due to people not stacking for this healing most of the time. I would say this is a well-designed mechanic and maybe a small heal check at the end. That's about it for all the mechanics I have in mind to cover in P3S. Most of the time I believe they aren't even that bad, just how players' executions are bad, or the strategies rather. Reminds me of when I saw some bigger FF14 content creator out there asking people to do things like tank range north and healer melee south for FOA. Yes, the idea is great, but there are party finder groups already got used to the other strats. Guess what happened when people want you to change strats all of a sudden? That's right, like 4 out of 8 people fucking forget. And it should become a mess comes to wipes after wipes. I say the only part I don't like is the ad phase. It really interrupts the flow of the fight. And your cooldown, of course. I certainly hope they just completely get rid of the ad phase in the Savage content in the future. That'll be it for this video. Don't know how many of you actually experienced the same thing as I. Honestly, hope Aether can do similar things like Japanese data center where they set up a full macro for the fight. Or be smarter about the strats. Unify it faster so people don't die swapping to a different strats. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Day. See you next time.